the man who taught the world how to die, was sentenced to death twice before he ever turned 60. His name was Seneca, and everything you believe about fear, about failure, about the value of your life, he destroyed it, all of it, in one single moment, right before he died. But before I tell you how this man faced death with a calm smile on his face, I need to tell you something first. Something that might be the most uncomfortable truth you have ever heard. You are already dying. Right now. This very second. Not someday, not eventually. Right now. Every breath you take is one fewer breath you will ever get. Every second that passes is 1 second you will never get back. And the tragedy isn't that we are dying. The tragedy is that we spend our entire lives pretending we are not. We wake up every morning and act like we have forever. We put things off. We say tomorrow. We ignore the things that truly matter. And we do it because somewhere deep inside, we refuse to accept the one truth that could completely transform our lives, that this life is temporary. Seneca knew this better than almost anyone who ever lived. And what he discovered, what he taught the world, changed everything. Not just about death, but about how to actually live. This is his story. And this is the lesson that could save your life. Rome. 4 BC, Seneca was born into wealth and privilege. His father was one of Rome's most famous rhetoricians. Their family was powerful, connected, respected. On the surface, Seneca had everything. But from the very beginning, there was something different about him. While other young Romans pursued power, status, and glory, Seneca pursued something far more dangerous. The truth. He began studying philosophy at a young age, not just reading about it, living it. And very quickly, he discovered something that would define his entire life. A fundamental truth that most people spend their whole existence running away from. Seneca discovered that the fear of death was destroying humanity, not death itself, the fear of it. And he made it his life's mission to set people free. But freedom, as Seneca would learn, comes at a devastating cost. By his 30s, Seneca had become one of Rome's most influential voices. His essays on philosophy spread throughout the empire. People traveled from across Rome to hear him speak. He was brilliant, eloquent, magnetic. And then, in 41 AD, everything changed. The Emperor Claudius sentenced Seneca to death, not because he committed a crime, not because he hurt anyone, because he was too influential, too popular, too dangerous. A philosopher with too many followers was a threat to the emperor's power, and so, the most powerful man in the world decided Seneca had to die. But here is what happened next. Seneca didn't panic, he didn't beg, he didn't desperately cling to life. Instead, he accepted it, completely. Because Seneca had already spent decades preparing for this exact moment, he had already taught himself how to face death, long before death came knocking. And so when the emperor's decree came down, Seneca simply nodded. He was ready. But fate had other plans. Through political negotiations that had nothing to do with Seneca's character, his sentence was changed, not to death, to exile. He was banished to the cold, remote island of Corsica for 8 years, alone. Imagine your entire life being ripped away. Your home, your friends, your family, your career. Everything you have built. Everything you have worked for, gone, overnight. And you are sent to a desolate island, thousands of miles from everyone you love. For 8 years, most people would break. Most people would spend those 8 years consumed by anger, by bitterness, by the crushing weight of why me? But Seneca used those 8 years to write some of the most powerful words ever put to paper. While the rest of Rome was busy chasing wealth and power and glory, Seneca, alone on a freezing island, was becoming the greatest teacher the world had ever seen. He wrote letters, essays, philosophical treatises. And in those writings, he revealed the secrets that would eventually reach millions of people. Secrets about fear, about time, about what truly matters in this brief life we are given. Let me share one of those secrets with you now, because this one changes everything. Seneca wrote to his friend Lucilius, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Read that one more time. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Think about your own life. How much of your suffering, your anxiety, your stress is actually happening right now? How much of it is just your mind creating future problems that don't exist yet? You worry about losing your job. Has it happened? No. You worry about your relationship falling apart. Is it falling apart right now? No. You worry about failure. Have you actually failed? Most of the time, no. Your mind is a machine that manufactures suffering, and you let it run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, without ever questioning it. Seneca saw this clearly, and he taught us exactly how to stop it. After 8 years of exile, Seneca returned to Rome, and within a short time, he became something extraordinary. The Emperor Nero chose Seneca as his personal tutor. Think about what that means. The man who had been sentenced to death by one emperor was now teaching the next emperor. Rome's most powerful position given to a man who had been thrown away like trash just years before. Seneca had gone from death sentence to exile to the most influential position in the empire. And through all of it, through the fear, the exile, the uncertainty, the loneliness, Seneca never once lost his peace, because he had mastered something that no amount of wealth or power could give you. He had mastered his own mind. Now, during this time, Seneca continued writing, and his letters to Lucilius became some of the most important philosophical writings in all of history. In one letter, Seneca wrote something that stopped me completely when I first read it. He wrote, "It is not that I have so little time, but that I waste so much of it." Let that sink in. It is not that I have so little time, but that I waste so much of it. Seneca wasn't complaining about not having enough hours in the day. He was saying something far more profound. He was saying that the problem isn't how long we live. The problem is how we live. Most of us act like time is infinite. We scroll through our phones for hours every single day. We sit in meetings that could have been emails. We spend entire weekends doing absolutely nothing meaningful. And then we wonder why life feels so empty. Seneca saw this trap centuries ago, and he refused to fall into it. Every single day of his life, even in exile, even facing death, Seneca used his time with intention. He wrote, he reflected, he taught. He lived every moment like it mattered, because for Seneca it did. But here is where the story gets dark, and where the most important lesson begins. In 65 AD, Seneca was involved in a plot against Emperor Nero. Some historians believe he was a willing participant. Others believe he was framed. The truth we may never fully know. But what we do know is this. When Nero discovered the plot, he sentenced Seneca to death for the second time in his life. Seneca was now 68 years old. He had survived exile. He had survived political betrayal. He had spent decades teaching humanity how to live. You have spent your entire life preparing for this. You have written thousands of pages about death. You have taught millions about how to face the end of life with courage. And now the moment has arrived. No more theory, no more philosophy, no more words, just you and death, face to face. This is the moment that separates those who truly understand from those who simply talk about understanding. And Seneca walked into that moment with peace, with calm, with absolute acceptance. He didn't cry out. He didn't beg for more time. He didn't regret. He simply let go. Because Seneca had spent 68 years preparing for exactly this moment. And when it finally came, he was ready. But why was he ready? Why could Seneca face death so calmly while the rest of us can't even think about it without feeling sick? This is the question that matters, and the answer is something Seneca taught throughout his entire life. Something so simple that we completely overlook it. Seneca practiced something called Memento Mori, 2 words from Latin. Remember that you will die every single day. Seneca reminded himself that death was coming, not someday, soon. Every morning he woke up, he acknowledged it. Today could be my last day. And here's the thing that most people don't understand about this practice. It wasn't morbid. It wasn't depressing. It was the most liberating thing Seneca ever did. Because when you truly accept that your time is limited, everything changes. Think about it. If you knew with absolute certainty that you had exactly 1 year left to live, what would you do differently? Would you still waste 3 hours a day on social media? Would you still stay in a job you hate? Would you still avoid telling the people you love how you feel about them? Would you still put off your dreams? Would you still let other people's opinions control your happiness? Of course not. You would live completely differently. You would wake up every morning with purpose. You would spend your time on what actually matters. You would stop running from fear, and you would start running toward everything that makes life worth living. That is exactly what Memento Mori does. It doesn't make you sad. It makes you awake. It forces you to look at your life honestly and ask yourself the question that most people are too afraid to face. Am I actually living, or am I just surviving? Seneca wrote about this constantly. In one of his most powerful letters, he said, "It is not death or pain that is to be feared, but the fear of pain or death." The thing that destroys us isn't the actual problem, it's our terror of it. Think about how this applies to your life. You are not destroyed by failure. You are destroyed by the fear of failure. You are not destroyed by rejection. You are destroyed by the fear of rejection. You are not destroyed by change. You are destroyed by the fear of change. The actual event almost never destroys us. It is the anticipation, the dread, the what if that lives in our minds. And Seneca spent his entire life teaching us how to free ourselves from this prison, not by avoiding fear, but by facing it directly, confronting it, understanding it so deeply that it loses all power over you. And this brings us to perhaps Seneca's most radical teaching, the one that most people struggle with the most. Seneca taught that death is not something to be feared at all. He wrote, "Death is not an evil. What is it then? The one law mankind has that is free of all discrimination." Think about that. Death is the great equalizer. It doesn't care if you are rich or poor, powerful or weak, famous or unknown. Kings die, slaves die, emperors die. Every single person who has ever lived has died, or will die, including you, including me. And Seneca's point wasn't to make you sad about this. His point was to set you free. Because once you truly accept this truth, once you stop fighting against the one thing that cannot be changed, you gain something extraordinary. You gain the power to actually live your life without the constant shadow of fear hanging over everything you do. Now, I want to give you something practical, something you can actually use. Starting today, this is what I call the Seneca morning practice. It takes less than 5 minutes, and it will change the way you experience every single day. Here is how it works. First thing in the morning, before you check your phone, before you scroll, before you do anything, sit down, close your eyes, take 3 slow breaths. Then say to yourself silently or out loud, "It doesn't matter. Today could be my last day." Not to frighten yourself, not to be morbid, but to wake yourself up. To remind your brain that this day, this exact day you are about to experience, is not guaranteed to come again. Then ask yourself 3 questions. Question 1. What truly matters to me? Not what society says should matter. Not what your parents expect. What matters to you? Question 2. Am I spending my time on what truly matters? Be honest, brutally honest. If the answer is no, that is not a failure. That is information. That is the beginning of change. Question 3. What am I afraid of? And is that fear actually real? Most of the time, the fear isn't real. It is your mind creating monsters that don't exist. Seneca taught us that. After these 3 questions, you open your eyes and you face your day with clarity, with purpose, with the understanding that every single minute of this day is precious. Because it is. Let me tell you something that most people never realize. Seneca, the man who taught the world about death, also taught the world about living, more than anyone else in history, because he understood something fundamental. You cannot truly live until you truly understand that you will die. These two truths are connected. Life and death are not opposites. They are partners. Death gives life its meaning. Without the knowledge that this ends, nothing matters. Why would you work hard if you had forever? Why would you love deeply if there were no risk? Why would you pursue your dreams if failure didn't matter? Death is what makes every single moment of your life valuable, and Seneca spent his entire existence helping us understand this. Now, I want to bring this back to you, to your life right now, today. You are living in a world that constantly distracts you from the truth. Your phone buzzes every few seconds. Social media feeds you an endless stream of other people's lives. The news tells you about problems thousands of miles away. And through all of this noise, through all of this constant stimulation, you forget the most important truth of your existence, that this is temporary, that every day you wake up is a gift, that you have limited time to become who you were meant to become, and to love the people who matter most, and to build the life that actually makes you happy. Not the life that looks good on Instagram, the life that feels right in your soul. Think of yourself as a ship in a storm. The storm is life, it will never stop. Problems will come, loss will come, fear will come. You cannot control the storm, but you can control your ship. You can control how you respond. You can control where you direct your energy. You can control what you let inside your mind and what you refuse to let in. Seneca was a ship that sailed through the worst storms imaginable: death, exile, betrayal, loss, and he never once capsized. Not because the storms weren't devastating, but because his ship was built on something unshakable, his understanding of what truly matters. And that is something no storm can ever destroy. So here's what I want to leave you with. You don't have to die to live differently. You don't have to face a death sentence to wake up. You just have to accept one simple truth. The same truth Seneca accepted at 25 years old. The same truth that guided him through exile, through betrayal, through death itself. You are going to die. And that is the greatest gift you will ever receive. Because it means every single moment you have left is precious. Every person you love matters. Every dream you have is worth pursuing. Every fear you carry is worth facing. Because you don't have forever. None of us do. But you have today, and today is enough. If this changed something inside you, even a little, subscribe to Eternal Echoes, because every week I share the ancient wisdom that can transform the way you live. And drop a comment below. Tell me honestly, are you living your life, or are you just surviving it? Seneca is watching, and so is the clock.